Alright guys, welcome back. It's me again, Victor, your real estate agent. Today we will be talking about the differences between a new project and sub-sales. Now there are multiple differences. Today we will just be talking about the main three, so that hopefully with these main three differences, it will help you in your decision-making process on which one should you buy. So of course, let's start. Number one will be the down payments. New projects, minimal down payment. I would say based on what I can see right now, most of the developers, they are only charging you a 1% down payment. For example, if you were to go for a 800,000 ringgit property, the down payment that you have to fork out is just 8,000 ringgit, and then you can afford an 800k property. So that is the down payment for new projects. But then for sub-sales, if you want to go for something of the same value, let's just use 800,000 ringgit for an example, the minimum down payment is usually 10% down payment. That is already 80,000 ringgit right off the bat. And then on top of that, you have to pay for your legal fees, stamp duties, and any bank charges. Usually that should add up to around 35,000 ringgit to 40,000 ringgit. So 80,000 ringgit down payment plus a 40,000 ringgit on legal fees and stamp duties, that is 120,000 ringgit down payment for the same value property. So I would say for number one, the down payments, definitely projects will win in this factor. Number two is the existence. So of course, for new projects, they have showrooms, but then when you go to the actual site, it is just a flat piece of land. So the existence isn't really there. So that's why for all the facts and figures, the future projected rentals, the future projected maintenance fee, maintenance charges, usually they are just the projections. For example, for the salespeople for new projects, this is how they would almost always tell you. They would tell you that, for example, your monthly installments is 1,002, and the projected rentals when you get your keys 2 years down the line is 1,006. So it is more than sufficient for you to cover your installments as well as any maintenance charges. But based on my experience, for most of my owners, nearly all of my owners, when they get the keys for the new projects, almost always it will not be sufficient to cover for your installments, because when you get the keys, so is everyone else getting their keys. So all of a sudden, right now there's another 1,000 units on the market for rentals. So since there is a hike up in supply and demand is still, around the same, that's why almost always when you get the keys, the rents are not sufficient to cover your installments, mainly because of that oversupply in units available for rent. So that is just a forecast. So for those, the existence is not really there. So all of the facts and figures, they are just a forecast. And then as for sub-sales, it is existent. It is already there. You know how much you're buying it. You know how much your installments are, and you know how much is the current tenant paying for the unit. And even if it was vacant and there's no tenants inside, you know how much most of the units right now renting for the exact same unit of the exact same size and conditioning. So with all that information for sub-sales, it is actual. And since you have some actual figures, it will be much easier for you to make a much more informed decision. So I would say that for number two, existence, sub-sales will win in this second factor, existence. Alright, so the last one, number three, is the warranties. For new projects, usually for developers, they will give you a 24 months warranty when you get your keys, and this warranty is for you to fix up any issues that has occurred in the unit, such as tiles popping, leaking issues, the doorknob is a little bit wobbly, you wish it could be a little bit more tight, that's an issue, or maybe your sink has a small leaking issue. So all of these issues, it will be bared by the developers for 24 months. So that is for new projects. But then for sub-sales, there is no such warranties. Usually for sub-sales owners, when they sell, they are selling the property as is, unless of course it is spoken and agreed upon before signing off the SMP, such as the doorknob is a little bit wobbly, the light bulb is not working. If the owner says that they will fix it and they put it on the agreement SMP and sign it off, then of course the owners will be fixing for that. But then usually for sub-sales, it is sold as is. So I would say for the third factor, which is the warranties, new projects will definitely win in this third factor. Now overall, as you can see, projects win 2/3, but then sub-sales wins only 1/3. So overall, it seems as if projects has won in this comparison game. Alright, I know what you're saying. Okay, Victor, I know the differences between projects and subsales, but which one is the best? Which one should I buy? Of course, I can't tell you which one is better than the other, but then I can give you some information on what I'm going for and what I think makes a little bit more sense for me. So there's two ways to look at it. Number one is investment, and number two for personal stay. Let's just talk about the investment side first. So I would say investment, definitely I'm going to go for subsales, because for new projects, based on my experience, it is not possible for you to do any investments with new projects, because when you get the keys, when everyone else get the keys, your rents will almost always be below your installments. And if your rents are below installment, it's not an asset. It's technically a liability, because on a month-to-month basis, assuming you do rent it out, on a month-to-month basis, you still have to top up for any differences in installments and maintenance fee as well. And to me, that is not an investment. So for investment purposes, I would go for subsales. With subsales, I know how much I'm buying it for. I know how much is the installments. And since I know these figures already, I just need to know what is the rent like. And if the rentals are sufficient to cover the installments, buy a little bit or buy a lot, then I will just make my decision from there, because I know that this is an investment. For example, for subsales, if I see something whereby the installments are 600 ringgit and the rents are 800 to 900 ringgit, that is a very good investment, because it is sufficient to cover your installments. So for number one, investments, definitely I'm going for subsales, and I think if you're looking for investment as well, subsales definitely is the way to go. Number two will be personal stay. Personal stay, now this is very subjective. For me, I have specific things I'm looking for. For example, the things that I might be looking for is maybe a double story, corner lot, in Desert Park, facing the main lake, the main pond. So if you have certain requirements that must be satisfied before you actually buy a property, then there could only be a few units. There could only be one unit that satisfies your requirements, or two or three maximum that is facing lake, double story, corner lot. So since these things, these sort of locations, these sort of properties are very limited, there could only be one for sale at any given point in time. So in such a situation, I have to go for subsales, because there's no new projects whereby it can replace that sort of location and that sort of facing. So if you have specific things that must be met before you buy a property, definitely you have to go for subsales. But then, if you don't have any major requirements, you're okay with whatever facing, you don't have to have a corner lot, you don't have to have a double story or a triple story or a landed property, condos are fine as well, then yes, you can just easily go for subsales. Because, you can easily go for new projects. Because new projects, you don't have to pay for any down payments. You don't mind about the facing. You don't mind about where the location is. It just has to be nearby your mom's house. Then definitely just go for new projects, because minimal down payments, you don't have to pay for any legal fees, and it's a brand new property. So you can use it for personal stay and it will still be okay, because usually for new projects you can get a really good deal. Alright guys, so that is the end of this comparison game between subsales and new projects. Stay tuned for more information on my channel, and I'll see you next time.